This is The Party with Serene
and Pearl.
Get it right, Poddy.
It's a magical day on the hilltop, and a very special day, and I'm going to call it John's last ride. Today is the final day that John Gusty will be producing the Trim Healthy podcast.
Yeah.
It's gonna be all right.
I could never imagine this day coming, John, and I going to.
I know.
It's
because it's longer than the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the beginning of the Unshow.
John was
Which
the
was-
beginning of everything. He was our first employee.
I was
totally.
going to say, he was like the beginning of the whole
No, I
brand.
agree with that. But as
Well,
far as sitting on these couches
Yeah.
are concerned,
Yeah.
The podcast predated the Unshow. Yeah.
Yes, the Unshow
Yeah.
was the idea, and then we thought,
Yeah.
and then you, John, you said, well, why don't we do a podcast as well?
Well, we did. We started the
Yeah.
podcast, and then we had the opportunity to do a radio show.
Yeah.
And the radio show, we did that for a little bit, and the Unshow was kind of out of the ashes of the radio show.
Right.
Yeah. So the podcast was first.
But I know
Yeah,
you
it's
guys
true.
that have listened to us, from the beginning, some of you guys have listened to every podcast multiple times. We love you for it. And you love John, and this is kind of a shock. And Serene and I have known him for a while now
Yeah.
because, John will tell you, but there's some things in his life that need him, and he'll tell you about those. But I mean, we need to go. I just wanted to take this time to honor you, John, and to thank you for what you have brought to our company, and our listeners have come to have a relationship with you too. I think that's what our party is about, a relationship with our listeners. And so I wanted to go back to the beginning and talk about what you have been for Trim Healthy. And so talk about when you came on, there was a nothing, right?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, there was no logo.
Yeah.
There were no products.
yeah.
No website, no nothing. I was fresh out of the I had lifetime in the music industry, and had kind of rode that. I did everything in the music industry that not only that I wanted to do, but I did everything in the music industry that one could do. I mean, I started out working at the record stores, wanting to be the artist, and I got to be the artist, and went through 3 different record labels, and started working for helped start a couple of record labels ourselves, and distributors, and just did everything you could do in the music industry, and worked for some amazing big names, and just took that as far as I could take it, and it got to the point where I mean, I think when we all get older, and you get married, and you've got kids, and the things that were important when you were 20 aren't important when you're 40, and I was working for a pretty big name. I'll not name drop, but that pretty big artist was someone who had been married longer than me, was a little older than me, had twice the kids, and I was watching him perform one night and wondering why he kept doing it, because I was going to drive 30 minutes after that show. I was going to drive 30 minutes home and sleep in my bed, next to my wife, and my kids are upstairs, and this guy was going to go to a hotel and get in a bus the next morning and do it again. And I was like, why do they keep doing it? Like, at that point in my life, I had more than I needed. I had enough. And this guy had 10 times what I had. So it was kind of an epiphany moment. And so I went and I stopped working for the entertainment industry. I didn't know what I was going to do next. I liked what I did. I didn't like the pursuit of the music industry was going through a lot of changes, and everything was just about selling more stuff, more tickets, more music, more shirts, and all that. And it just seemed like an empty pursuit. Like I'd already done everything that I wanted to do there. And so I just kind of stepped out in faith and said, I don't know what happens next, but it's not going to be what I had been previously doing. And my phone rang one day, and it was this guy Charlie. This guy Charlie had worked with a buddy of mine, Bill Bennell, and Bill's family was close to my family, and our kids went to school together. And I guess Bill and Charlie were talking one day, and Charlie was like, yeah, my wife and her sister, they wrote a book, and not quite we're not quite sure what to do next. Well, I know we need a website, we need some stuff, and you do that stuff, and would you help us? And I was kind of like going, okay, well, I'll check it out. So I came out to your house.
The cockroach
to the
house.
trailer.
The house that is no longer there. And I just remember sitting there, and there was a pile of padded envelopes like on the kitchen counter. And it was that's what it was. It was a pile of padded envelopes, and however many books had sold that day, and they were being sold through a little website called eJunkie, which I don't even know if that even still exists anymore. But
all it was a book. It was not a website.
It was just a book, and
Your website was called eJunkie?
No.
That's what it was hosted
eJunkie
on.
was just a platform.
It was just a page where you could buy a book. It
Like
wasn't a
eBay.
website.
Yeah, it was
And
nothing.
I don't know how anyone was hearing about it, but people were finding it and just buying. And Charlie was there wrapping up books, right?
Yeah. And the kids were helping put
Yeah.
the books in envelopes, and it was just like, I mean, tiny little operation. And but we all sat down, and it was unanimous. We wanted to do more, and like I said, so we went through the process of making a logo and making a proper website, and I remember, this is strange. This is how it doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but this is how much things have changed, and it's probably been 11 years, I think.
Yeah.
That was 2013.
Wow.
Is that when you came on?
Yeah.
2013?
Yeah.
So we released the book September 2012, so it was probably like 6 months after.
Yeah, and this is how much things had changed in that time. Is I remember the book mentioned this weird substance called stevia. And,
You hadn't even
remember
heard
how and the very first product that we ever did
Yeah.
was stevia. And it was only because people were reading the book and going, what is this stevia you speak of? And
we sent them to a current site that had it. All our Trim Healthies brought them out, and then they ran out of that stevia. They got a new one in, and it was terrible.
They changed their sauce.
So they're like,
So
"Hey,
bitter.
Pearl and Serene, can you get us some stevia?"
Yeah, and I was
I could
and
just
I was
stevia. Well,
I was definitely familiar with what stevia was, but I've always disliked stevia.
Yeah.
Still to this day, I don't like stevia. But the biggest complaint I think across the board is that it has this gross metallic
Yeah.
aftertaste. And I remember we're all sitting there going, well, first of all, people couldn't find stevia, which
No,
is
but
weird
they
because you can go to
couldn't-
Walmart now and
Yeah.
have 5 or 6 different kinds of stevia you can buy. But I think the really first wacky off the cuff just do it, and that's kind of what I think we've done as a company is just in the moment, let's do this idea that we're thinking about right now. Was I mean I'm paraphrasing, but
Went
Sam jumped on a plane and went
to find
went to
stevia.
China.
Went to lasso stevia somewhere.
and started looking for stevia, and that just set off an adventure of I think after we put stevia out, I think we kind of felt like we could do anything, whatever product we want to do, and we did that, and we just we another book came, and more products came, and we created the member website because that was an obvious one that we needed to do that, and man, along the way I think the thing that I am most proud of is the and a lot of them aren't with us anymore for various reasons, but like man, we have had some of the most amazing people work
Yeah.
Yes.
on this project over the years. Just
And I think of one thing about you, John, who you've always been, and you and I have worked very closely together, is there was never a time where, we're all about the extra mile people. We feel like we're extra mile people, but you were extra mile person. There was no time that was too late. There was no 3 a.m. that was too much.
Yeah.
There was always just you being, what can I do?
And this is on top, and we'll find out soon,
Yeah.
on top of a personal situations which are already maxed.
Yeah. And I guess that's what we should go into now. John is an amazing person. Today's really about honoring him, what he has brought to us, but who he is as a man and a husband. Beautiful Dawn is a great friend of ours. And ever since we've known you, John, Dawn has been in a wheelchair. You have never, ever, ever given up hope of her healing. And in fact, that's a part of your future.
yeah.
But you have been full-time, not only to work full-time, more than full-time for us, but full-time caregiver in your family. So some people know of that, but can you share Dawn's situation?
Yeah, well, we've been married over 20 years, and we met in the music industry. And when I met her, she was walking with a cane, and she was told at that time, she was diagnosed. Before her cane, and I knew her at this time. She was actually taking a walk around a park here in Nashville, and she went to step over a log, and her foot wouldn't. She couldn't. She was walking and she went to step over the log, and something with the brain signal, and the rest of us would just step over the log, but she couldn't do it, and that's when she knew something was wrong. And long story short, she went and did what anybody else would do and go to the doctor, and they told her that she had MS, and it was primary progressive MS, and so slowly but surely it just never got any better, and so you start walking with a cane, and it wasn't too long after that, she was confined to a scooter, and we've just I think anybody that's gone through any sort of physical medical issue, for better or for worse, that you kind of have to be your own general contractor, because I think a lot of people have this misconception that there's doctors behind the scenes that have your file, and they're looking at your file at night and going, and there might be a few very special doctors that take people on and work day and night on their condition, but for the most part, there's nobody like that. So I just kind of said, well, I'm going to be my wife's general contractor.
That's a great way to look at it as a general contractor, because the doctors are the specialists, but you have to manage the project if it's extensive.
Yeah, and so I'd been up to that point I'd been really, really blessed. I'd never even stepped foot in a hospital. I was never sick, and still to this day I'm rarely ever sick. So I didn't really I knew the music industry, and I knew how to do content production, and I knew all that stuff, but I didn't know anything about health and wellness. I just knew I was healthy, and I knew she needed help, and so I stepped into that world and did, Danny and I are similar in this way. I'm kind of a digger. When I get onto a new subject, I'm just gonna dig. I'm gonna find out everything there is to know about that subject, the good, bad, and the ugly. And so I started digging into her situation, and it just opened up this whole world I never even knew was there. I really thought I understood. I thought I understood ego, because I'd worked with celebrities my whole life, and so I've been in the room with some of the biggest egos that the entertainment industry could throw at you. And but I had never. I think the first thing that really blew me away was I never had experienced ego like I had in the medical profession. I mean, and I'm not. I don't want to sound negative on doctors, because there's really good people that work in the medical industry, but I couldn't believe I was asking questions. A doctor would be in front of me, and we're talking about my wife, and I'd be asking questions, and I'd get more often than not I would get almost condescending negative responses from the medical professional. It was almost like what. You mere mortal, why would you be asking questions? Just sit
I
there
have
and
experienced that.
just sit there and do what you're told, type of thing. And I don't play well in that type of environment. And so I kind of took that general contractor role head on and said, I'm gonna ask more questions. I'm gonna dig, and I'm gonna figure this out. And so that started the journey. That was over 20 years ago. And we have made, oh my gosh, I learned so much, good and bad. And we've made some pretty good progress in a lot of areas. And one of the major things, just to kind of explain a little more, is she was told, and I think a lot of people get told, you have this condition. And it's like this one thing. And I learned over the years, she doesn't have one thing. She has many things that are out of balance or out of whack that needed attention. And so we've been kind of like fine-tuning things, finding things, and I mean, everything from like heavy metal toxicity to she was anemic. I mean, she had a bunch of things
You've
wrong
basically
with her.
done everything, haven't you? I mean, you've
Yeah.
been to other countries and done stem
Oh,
cell
yeah.
treatments. I mean, and they even kind of temporarily had amazing results, right? She was out of
Oh,
her
yeah.
scooter
Yeah.
after stem cell therapy, but then it reverted back.
Yeah,
right?
and
Twice.
and so I've learned a lot of stuff over the years, and I mean the amount of documentation and research that has come of that has really like I'll sit there and I'll look at the pile sometimes and just go, wow, we've gone down many
And you've
roads.
gone deep into looking
Yeah.
into her blood too, and found some incredible
Yeah.
situations under microscope too.
Well,
And isn't that why, like, a large part of the reason that you're moving away from us is to do this next part of Dawn's life, which
Yeah.
is, can you tell people? I don't know how much you want to share about that, but it's pretty. It's
Well, there's two parts to that. First of all, there's a lot more to be done, and there's some really exciting things that are about to happen. But when we fix her and get her back to where she needs to be, all of that research I'm gonna until I stop breathing, that research is going to be turned into content to help other people.
Yeah.
And it already has. I mean, I've
very
been
excited
I've been
about it.
really
Yeah, so
really
am
quiet.
I.
Over the years, I've been really
Yeah.
quiet about it. But I too am an author.
right.
Yes.
And I put some of that research into one book. It's a book called The Red Pill Revolution, and that's just kind of skimming the surface. But I've got easily 3-4 more books in me. There's another one about to come out here at the end of this year, and
what's that called, John?
it's called The Red Pill Food Revolution, and
okay,
it's
yeah.
about the relationship that humans have had with food over the years, and how that has changed, and it's really a deep dive just into the topic of food,
Interesting.
but it's all anchored in this journey that I've been through with my wife, and there's been some people along the way. Her doctor, Dr. Jeremy Ayers, has become like one of my best friends, and we wrote the first book together along with some other professionals. And like I said, we want to get her fixed, and then we want to share what we've learned over the years with others, and because there's a lot of people suffering. I think a lot of times people get told they have something and they wear that. Like they just go, someone gets told they have cancer, and then they wear that, and I don't know. I'm a big believer in just at least recognizing how powerful our minds are. Like if someone tells you have something wrong, there is a chance you might not have what they're telling you is wrong, but it can manifest. Like if somebody
so
tells
true.
you, you have this condition, there's a chance you might not have that condition, but you could manifest that condition just by being told you have it. And I've seen that play out so many times over the years.
And haven't you seen that too? I think you've told me the Dawn actually doesn't have, the reason why she's in a wheelchair is not MS itself. Is that correct? Or have there's other situations?
We could probably
Yeah.
do another 6 podcasts
Yeah.
on the topic of diagnosis, because I think diagnosis is a topic that needs to be talked about more, because I think diagnosis is a lot more mental than it is physical, but she was told she had multiple sclerosis, and this is me talking, but it's become my opinion that there are terms like multiple sclerosis, or Lyme's disease is another one, where in my opinion I think those are really vague diagnoses that are given to people when the doctors just don't know.
Yeah, big
Right.
buckets.
Yeah, they're just big,
Yeah.
vague buckets, and people get thrown into them. And more often than not, the protocol is just take a bunch of pharmaceuticals,
Yeah.
and maybe you'll get better. And it rarely, if ever, is the case. And so she was told she had multiple sclerosis, but oddly enough, what we found this out about a year ago, at the core of what is wrong with her is actually a hormonal issue. Her pancreas does not, I think most people think of the pancreas and they think of insulin. And that is one of the functions of the pancreas, but her pancreas does not produce glucagon. Mm-hmm. And therefore, and if you know the difference between insulin and glucagon, when the body is taking in the sugars, the glucagon is what allows the body to store
the
excess
muscles.
and therefore be able to build body mass. And that's one thing Dawn's never been able to. She's just continually lost body mass.
And that's why she can't have the strength to lift things, right?
Correct.
Because there's no glucagon in her muscles.
Yeah. And the entire diabetic discussion has always been focused on insulin because we're such a sugar-heavy society, and there's very, very, very little, if any, active researchers, people that have touched on the subject. But there are not many options for glucagon deficiency. Nobody, there isn't a magic, pill or supplement or anything that you can just take to get more glucagon.
But you guys are about to do something pretty exciting that no one's done before, right? So, and this is all part of the future.
Yeah.
I mean, so how will people keep up with Dawn's journey? And I'm like, I know so many of our listeners will want to know.
Yeah. Well, she had her website up for years. It was dawngusty.com, and we took it down a couple years back because she wanted to do something different with it, and we're about to fire that back up again.
Dawngusty.com?
Dawngusty.com.
Oh, yay.
And because she really wants to document what happens next, and we'll
that's so exciting because she's got hope again. Does she have hope again?
She's never really lost hope. What it has been is it's just been there's been lots of times over the years where she's gotten excited, and then it never really quite pans out. And so I think she's just tired. She's tired of getting excited and then having it not pan out.
But she's one of the most. She has the most amazing sense of humor. One thing I have to say about both of you, and I know there's been hard moments that we don't even know the full scope of. That you guys have bad nights, and those nights are not usually people's bad nights. These are bad nights. And I know that you still come to work and you put a smile on your face, but you and Dawn have gotten through so much with humor.
Can I just have him repeat one of these stories? You'll say it better than me, but you told us once, John, about how you were both not being able to walk on your feet. I think you broke all your ribs on something. Tell the story. And you were like waltzing down the hall trying to take each other to the bathroom. You've got to tell that story.
And we've got 7 minminutes, and I've got to say some things before John leaves.
Can't we do it longer?
Do it in a 1 minute, John.
We need longer.
I was both of my boys are very I'm an old skateboarder dude, and so both of my boys are.
You look like an old skateboarder dude.
Yeah. Both my kids are anything with balance, whether it's surfing, water skiing, whatever. And years ago, one of my sons had one of those hoverboards, which don't actually hover. I don't know why we call those hoverboards, but you know what I'm talking about.
Backbreakers.
Yeah.
What they're called.
And I was standing in my kitchen, and I was just standing on one of those. I was talking to my wife and a neighbor, and I was just like fiddling with it as we're talking. And anyone that's been on one of those knows that it's like a Segway. If you lean forward, you go forward. If you lean back, you go backwards. And I went to step off it, and it shot out from underneath me, and it threw me up against this table that we have, and I ended up like breaking like the back, these back ribs right here. And there was a moment in time where I couldn't walk. I'd never been incapacitated like that. I couldn't walk, and I mean literally could not get up. It was so painful, and we it's funny when I think about it now, but it was pretty intense what was happening. I had to use her, she was on her scooter, and I had to use her scooter as a walker. She had to walk, scoot backwards just for me to get into the bathroom.
Both using the scooter.
And we were just cracking up over look at us, we are absolutely pathetic right now. But it was also one of the we've had all of these incredibly romantic moments at the most inopportune times. You know, like I think I've said this in the past. You know, like if I have to lift her up to get on or off the toilet or in and out of the bathtub or whatever, like we always like I consider that I just get a chance to slow dance with my wife.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, but we Dawn and I almost have the exact opposite kind of relationship that you and Sam have.
You get to see all the details.
No, we are raw honest with each other, but we end up in the same place because I mean we still act like newlyweds as well.
You do,
but no, Dawn definitely has no filter. She does not hesitate to tell me anything that needs to be said at any one given time.
Danny, I've got some things to read for John before we close, but you haven't said much, and you want to do a last good. Anything to say before we leave?
This is really not the right. We have to go to a surgery for our veins, but we needed a good long hour one for John.
I know, but
I mean, yeah. I mean, when I first came here, John was, at least in from my perspective, the guy who was making a brand out of my friend's book. So, because when I got hired here, as Sam and I were at coffee one day and just going for it, just talking and stuff, and I came on here and there was this dude, John Gusty, that I wasn't quite sure really wanted me here. That's just my nature. I was abandoned.
Lots of people didn't want you here.
No, my dad left me when I was young, and so older men just assume they don't want me around. Sorry.
That's really, you were the only person in this group that even knew who the Wu-Tang Clan was. So I loved you from the day one.
Well, he was just the guy that was like making sure things were right, and I was coming in with like ideas, and I had kind of been warned already, not by John, but just like, hey, we got a lot of idea people here. Like, we need people that can grind. We need stuff. Doers. We don't need thinkers. We need doers. And I'm a thinker.
Yeah.
I'm like almost totally a thinker.
Yeah.
And I was just like, of course, doers. It's like, I can do things. Look at these shoes tied up nicely. And so yeah, I was like, oh man, this guy's a doer. I always saw John as like the guy that stays up to 3 a.m. getting it done, and I was a little intimidated. And yeah, John and I had we started working together on little projects, and we had these beautiful moments where you get to really try a relationship, and where opinions and crosswords are happening, and we just became, I think we, once we like had words with each other, we became like real friends.
Well, I felt for you early on because like I think you and I clicked from the get-go, but long before you were a part of this podcast, you were given an office, several different office jobs, and in my opinion, the Daneth cannot be contained.
It was gross
by an office.
It was gross. I put on the costume, but I was horrified.
And it was kind of. I think that's really where we bonded, because like you'd be given a task, and you've always been a performer. Like let's like hypothetically, if the task was for Danny to build a lemonade stand, you would create a PowerPoint presentation about the lemonade stand. You would talk about making deals with Minute Maid to sell the lemonade on a grand scale. You did everything.
You'd dress the whole office with lemons.
But build a lemonade stand.
But there would be no lemonade stand.
It was an amazing presentation and all, but you did everything but build the lemonade stand. And I always felt for you. I was like, man, we need to get Danny out of the office, and he needs to. You need to be unchained and yeah, man, I don't think that this podcast would even still be here if you weren't.
Well, hey, he left us for a while, and we're like, Dan, come back.
Yeah. But I do want to say, this shows the kind of man that John is. This is all about John, and he's praising other people. So we don't have much time, and we've got to talk about John.
Can I read something from?
But he's John's.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But before we
Leslie
go,
to
speaking of, I do want to say a few things about some other people, because So let me get.
Oh, you've got notes.
No,
okay.
Well, like I just. Some of these people aren't with us anymore, but man, I just really like, we've done so much, and there's people like Matt Miller and his team, Kevin, Mike, Danica, couldn't have done any of the things we did without those people. Amazing people.
Yeah, amazing.
Tim Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim.
Good old
Tim worked on
Tim.
this podcast
Yeah.
for years and years and years.
Polly
love Tim.
Lorman, who was with us for many, many years, just doing
#Polly.
oh my gosh, so many things. Justin Davidson, who
Yeah.
kept things really, really tight in the administrative realm and kept keeping track of all the expenses and all. Leslie Pops.
I know Leslie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Leslie, can
Love
can you run to
Leslie.
the mic, because I wanted
Yeah.
to, before we leave, can you
Yeah.
just say a couple of things, because you and John have
Yeah.
been friends way before we knew John.
Yeah.
I don't want to come on here and say goodbye to John because that's too hard. And I'm still his neighbor, and I gave him full permission to force friendship on me because I'm
Do I still get
terrible.
employee discount at the
Yeah,
Yorkshire Deli?
yeah.
Okay. All right.
But
I mean, I'll pay full price.
When I heard the news that John was leaving, it was it's emotional. So John
Yeah. Aw.
John brought me here, and so I'm thankful, and I love you.
Aw, I
It's
love
all
you
going to be
too.
great. And good luck with everything. Don't make me do that again.
There, few people I could love more than that woman right there. But a really close second to Leslie is Bev.
Yeah.
Bev Savage.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. She's one that was up 2:30
Yep.
in the morning with me. So yeah, here's Bev, Esther, Cindy,
Yeah.
Janet, who just left us, but
Yeah.
super hard worker. Stephanie Copeland,
I know,
Jessica
right?
Myers. Yeah, couldn't have done anything without.
Can
those
I
people.
read something from them to you?
Yeah.
Speaking, you just
Yeah.
listed them all. Dear John. and
Dear
when I read
John.
it this morning, I cried. When we heard you were leaving us, we could barely believe it, but knew immediately it meant your family needs you home. If there's one thing we know about you, John, family comes first. Thank you for all the good times and for being there in the hard times. From the late night sale prep, the weekend tech emergencies, to the everyday responsibilities, we can't imagine a Johnless THM. That's what we're all trying to imagine.
Yeah.
Remember when you asked us to send out hundreds of replacements for those mismeasured dunk spoons? So much has changed in the last 10 plus years. Some things we don't miss, like those midnight cyber sale crashes, but other things we will hold as treasures in our hearts. Thank you for helping us to grow as a team by your leadership, patience, and guidance. We meet thousands of people in our lifetime, John, yet every now and again there is one who stands out and truly never is forgotten. Thank you for being that one in 1,000 for us. With love, your devoted staff minions, aka remote staff team, Bev, Cindy, Denise, Esther, Janet, Jessica, Chris, Shannon, Steph, and Saya.
Aw. Oh,
Yeah.
thanks,
They're amazing
girls.
women, and they love you.
absolutely.
And I
Every
just-
single one of those. Every single one of them.
Yeah, I do want
Thank
to
you.
say too that there's nobody like John. He is a 1 in a million, and such a beautiful soul that doesn't get tainted by society. That's what I would like to say. You know, John is a sovereign person. That's John Sov was the nickname that I used to call him. Sovereign, you know, in length. So, you know, I'd call him Sovereign John, because you know he's sovereign to who he is in the inside, and there's nobody that's going to peer pressure him into doing anything. And he's a beautiful family man. And like they said, if he's leaving, it's because his family needs him. And
That's
beautiful family man.
That's the only thing that would make me walk away from this project. And yeah.
And I know, John, that like you said, you're still here, you're still our friend, and you're still living by Leslie, and you're still there. And
Yeah.
so, you know, if we need you, you said to me that day, you know, when you said it was time, you said, I'm just a phone call away.
Yeah.
And so we want to thank you for all that you have given us. You took us
Yeah.
from a nothing
Thank
little
you, John.
page and to who we
Yeah.
are. And you helped, and you gave your everything.
Yeah.
We thank you for that, and I'm sure all our listeners are bidding you
Yeah.
a beautiful, beautiful, happy life. Next part of your life with Dawn and your children.
Keep us on those invitations to
I actually-
birthdays.
I actually learned the phrase content marketing from John. All I knew was direct ad type of like, come here, click here, buy now. And that's something like I'm hired by people for a lot of money to do that sometimes when I'm not on the show. And I never give him credit, but I quote him all the time. I use his phrases, putting people on display versus trying to just sell products, putting the human face. I mean, I stole so much of that from him, and I didn't know what content marketing was. I didn't know what social selling was or any of those things. And he brought this really honest, authentic way. It's like, we've got a product, we've got a brand, there are things for sale, but what's the higher thing? What's beyond like making a buck?
I think that's John's been biggest voice in our company.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're people who have products for sale.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's who we are. And we don't, want to become, hey, product,
Right.
and forget who we are. And I think that's been his strongest voice, because you hate.
That's why he's a beautiful person to
you
the
hate
core.
typical
And
marketing.
nothing that he does is tangent. I'm just looking down at beside John. He has a special sovereign water bottle. It wasn't a tangent.
Copper, by the way. It's always been brown glass.
But listen, it wasn't a tangent, right? Okay, so John is very sovereign about his water and where it comes from. I know we have to go, Pearl, but it wasn't just a 4-month stint.
No.
He is a constant person, and like a person that just keeps digging. If he's into something, he'll just be further into it 10 years down the road. And so
he doesn't have like whims.
No,
he's not like I'm very whimsical. Like I'm into this today, and
Pink
then I'm
shirt
over
today,
it forever.
purple next week.
I'll leave you guys with this. I think of the three of you. You guys are. You always makes me chuckle every night. It was years and years ago, and you guys know how much I love my dogs, right? I've got a German Shepherd and a Husky.
Pretty sure you French your dogs.
Well, that's it. I remember you two. I forget what the conversation was, but you guys were just absolutely horrified that I let my dogs in my bedroom, and I was like,
in your bed,
I was like,
your bed.
My dogs like sleep with that. And you were saying that it freaked you out when your dog would like lick you and stuff like that. So every night when I climb in the bed and my two big dogs
and they're
get in there
huge
too,
dogs, they're big huskies,
and they're licking my face.
They lick your mouth.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
They go.
My dog wants to lick my mouth.
You have a king size bed, I hope.
Trying to kiss you.
My dog gives me the most genuine look. It turns its head and it's like, I want to lick your mouth, and I'm like, no.
And as I'm sitting there like going, I'm laying beside my beautiful wife. I've got my beautiful dogs. My kids are safe.
It's like your
my
harem.
dogs are licking my and I just think of the three of your faces going, oh God.
Just airline barf bag.
And then I nod off to sleep.
That's how you guys gonna leave the picture of John with his dogs and his wife in his bed, happy ever after.
He would like that picture to be in our heads. He would like to oil paint
That's
it.
why he wants to end this party with
It's
that.
a slow zoom in, a close up to John's face, and a little dog paw comes up and just holds right here.
Hey, if you'd oblige me, one last group hug. Come on.
Yes,
All right.
group. Yeah, group hug, group hug.
世之间，